This is the Comics Alternative Kickstarter. Discovering What Now, Bruno? Welcome to another episode of the Comics Alternative Kickstarter. I'm Derek, and on this weekly series, I talk with a comics creator or creative team that is currently kickstarting their project. And this week, I have the pleasure of talking with Bruno Oliveira. His Kickstarter is titled "What Now, Bruno?" So, you know, your book is or your project is a question. So let me ask you, how are you, Bruno?
I'm great, Derek. Thanks for having me. This is pretty cool for me to be able to advertise and talk about the campaign. I really appreciate it.
Okay, well, let's start with, I guess, an overview of what Now Bruno is all about.
Right. The story, not the campaign, the story is about, I started writing about 5 years ago, and it's about the life of a comic book artist after he makes it. After he's kind of becoming established. He's working for Marvel. He's getting a lot of freelance work, and he's dating his long distance girlfriend. So that's basically his life. How does he handle everything? Because before, when you're trying to become a comic book artist, you can find tips anywhere. Editors, agents, professional artists, they are more than helpful, and they give you the best tips to actually make it. But as soon as you make it, as soon as you get even your first job at a big company, this all stops. And if you ask for tips, if you try to talk to them, you can't get anything that's actually something practical. Like when you're starting to learn how to draw, they give you specific directions on how to do it. After that, after you learn everything and you made it, this just stops. And it's kind of, nobody even talks to you with confidence of what you should do. So that's pretty scary because people already assume you know everything. And I don't know anything.
Outside of comic book art.
Yeah, I know how to draw a comic. But it's like there's so many things that you learn by really screwing it up. It's kind of hard. Apart from actually doing the work, everything else, tax, everything related to being by yourself as a comic book artist professionally is very different. Like even if you're just being a professional comic book artist for a month, you can see the difference a mile away. It is very obvious how different it is than being an amateur. So it's like suddenly it's like you're getting this degree. Like now you're an adult. It doesn't matter how old you are, but it's like now you're an adult and you're the one that needs to give people tips now. And actually the first idea that came to me about this book was I was at my first comic book convention as an artist in the Artist Alley. And someone came to me. I was about to start my first book for Marvel. And some people from Brazil already knew about it. And they came to ask me all those tips. And it was so weird because it was like a month ago, none of that happened. And only a few people knew me from Instagram and stuff like that. So it was I felt in an awkward position because I think every professional artist kind of feels like this sort of happened. Doesn't matter if you put those tips to practice, you just kind of feel that it happened. You got lucky. Even though that's not completely true, it's like, well, I've been doing the same thing forever. Why did it work out now? What happened now that ended up working it out? And it's usually luck. It's usually good timing. So I was kind of interested in doing a story that would show all these struggles as a professional artist, with a long time and long distance girlfriend, and how do I deal with everything about it? And what I think it's cool about the story, because in the Kickstarter video I even mentioned that all sounds boring, but to me what I think it's cool, and I decided to do those little promo comics that have been posted on the Kickstarter website. It was just to show how I tell a story, because to me that's what's fun. The plot people might eventually, or maybe right at the beginning, say that may be a little boring. I'm not interested in reading that. And in the comics, I show you how funny this can get, and the way I tell it that you might be interested in reading it.
Yeah, as you point out, there is sample art on your Kickstarter page, but you mentioned your video. I have to tell you, one of the things that really won me over when I first saw your Kickstarter project was this video. And the sense of humor that you display, and I guess that's your actual girlfriend in the video.
Yeah.
You were able to lasso her into the production of this. I mean, I think it's just a great sense of humor. In the way you've described this project, What Now Bruno, I guess you could call this an autobiographical book that you're creating, because as you point out on your Kickstarter page, you're a professional comic book artist. You've done work for IDW with the Drones title, for Arcana, but you've also done quite a number of things for Marvel. For example, you did work with the Amazing Spider-Man Annual, Gwenpool Holiday Special, and Mosaic, just to name a few. So you are this professional comic book artist that you write about in What Now Bruno. And like the protagonist in What Now Bruno, you're trying to figure things out once you've become a professional comic book artist.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that whenever something like bad or horrible happened to me, in about 5 minutes, even though I think it's a disaster, in about 5 minutes, I think, you know what, if that happened to someone else, I would laugh. And it didn't take long that I thought, well, maybe I should write it down. And I would write it down a couple situations, and it was funny. And I thought, man, this is funny. I mean, I hated that it happened to me, but this is a funny story. So I did all that. I've been writing these little stories down for a long time. And then it was, okay, but how can I make it funny to tell the story to another person? And that's how the whole thing came about. And it's nice that you mentioned the video, because the video was supposed to be a lot different than that. And it was cool that it just happened to turn out that way, because I was sitting down, I think it was on a Saturday, I sat down to record a video, and my girlfriend was in the living room playing The Witcher. And I said to her, okay, I'm gonna start recording the video, and then when I say I'm gonna introduce you, and I'm gonna come to you with the camera and just talk a little bit, because I had already been drawing her for a while for this comic, so I wanted to show people her as well. So I started recording, and I think it took a long time for me to get comfortable with the camera. So it took me a few takes to actually, okay, now I like this. And then when I went to the camera to her, she was asleep. We didn't we didn't agree to that.
That wasn't staged?
No, not at all. And in fact, I had written a little short thing for her to memorize and talk. It was a little joke that we would do together, and I kept calling her, Ayumi, and she didn't reply later. So I went with the video to her, because there's a cut that when I say, let me introduce you to my girlfriend, I cut because I yelled at her. I kept calling her and she wouldn't respond. So I went I picked my cell phone and I went to her, and she was sleeping. And to me, the weird thing was not just that she was sleeping. She wasn't even in the room. She was sleeping like a homeless person on our couch. So I was like, man, I gotta put this on tape.
Yeah, and I will feature your video along with some sample art in the show notes for this episode. So our listeners, I mean, they can visit your Kickstarter page and see the video, but they can also check out the video on the Comics Alternative website. Now,
nice.
Let's talk about some of the specifics here. Now, when this episode goes up, there will be, I think, 19 days before the deadline. And that deadline is Thursday, December 7th at 12:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I guess it'd be 1:10 Eastern.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, our listeners have, as of listening to this, if you're listening to this on Saturday the 18th when the episode goes up, you have 19 days. So don't lollygag. Definitely check out What Now Bruno. And I want to ask you about some of the reward levels. Now, you have a variety to choose from. If people want to get the digital book, then that's only $6. But the physical book, if someone pledges 12, then they get that, the physical copy of What Now Bruno. But tell us about some of your other reward levels that you have.
Yeah, we have in this the prices are a little lower. We have stickers. We have mini prints that I'm gonna do with the characters from the book, and I'm gonna releasing them throughout the campaign. There's also a bunch of original artwork from my work at Marvel. There's original artwork from Deadpool, from Gwenpool Holiday Special, from Mosaic. There's also commissions that I can do if you want me to draw your favorite character or your own character. There's also like a big, like the biggest of the rewards, which is I will write, draw, ink, color, and letter your story, 3 pages of story that you can have me write it, or you maybe have a script that you want me to do everything for 3 pages, and these are just the main rewards of the campaign.
Yeah, I particularly like, and there's just one of these available for a pledge of $400 or more. Someone can get the headless Deadpool from issue number 21.
Yeah, it's the headless Shakespeare when he's doing Hamlet.
So, okay, so is this your first Kickstarter?
Yeah, it's my first Kickstarter. I did a one crowdfunding here in Brazil, but it was a platform that only works. It's only in Portuguese and it's only here. So the competition is a lot less than Kickstarter.
Okay, well, what are you learning now, this being your first Kickstarter, that you wish you had known before? Like some of the things you're learning as you go along, the ins and outs of a Kickstarter project like this?
Mostly not anything like practical or anything about the campaign, because I studied a lot before starting, but mostly how you, the creator of the campaign, deal with the campaign and the stress. Everybody told me it was hard. I didn't know it was that hard. I mean, there are nights that I don't even sleep well. Oh my God, I'm not going to make it. And sometimes I talk to people and they say, no, come down. Usually the most backers come at the end of, no, this is impossible. I thought about canceling the campaign like 5 times because I don't want to be embarrassed.
Oh, really?
But the cool thing, but the cool thing about it is that because now that I have this sort of technique that every time something that makes me feel bad or embarrassed, anything negative, I immediately, in my head alone, I don't even have to write it down. I can immediately come up with a short story that, I can do a story about this and it's going to be hilarious. So I have, I think, 3 or more written down that are just about this Kickstarter feelings that I haven't done yet. And after I think about it, I hated that I feel like this, but it gives some really funny stories. So I think that's what I was the least prepared for, is the stress of managing the campaign. That's really hard.
Yeah. You know, I've heard that from a number of people who've done Kickstarter campaigns, especially the first time they do it, where they're just learning the ropes. A lot of the stress.
The first time is the worst. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, are you getting a sense from the number of backers that you have so far of how many of them may be fans in Brazil, where you're located, and how many are outside of Brazil?
I think only 2 are Brazilian.
Oh, really?
From what I could tell, yeah. From the names, I knew one person, and the other I didn't know. But from the name, I could tell that he was Brazilian. Everyone else is from another part of the world. I think it's because obviously there's the language. There isn't a lot of comic book readers in Brazil that speak English. And actually, a lot of people ask me, well, why didn't you do the crowdfunding in Brazil? Especially because a lot more people would probably know about me and the story and would identify themselves. And the reason for that was this talk that I mentioned to you earlier about a lot of my friends saying it's going to be hard to find an audience for this book. And I don't even think you're going to get people interested in Brazil. Most Brazilian readers they read superhero comic books or more mainstream types of comics, and everybody said at least with Kickstarter you will reach everyone around the world. So maybe it might be easier to find your audience there. So that was the main reason to do it instead of doing here in Brazil.
Now, obviously, if our listeners want to find out more about this project, What Now Bruno, they can go to Kickstarter and they can put in What Now Bruno in the search and find it. Or I think just the word or the name Bruno, and it immediately comes up. But if they want to find out more about the kind of art that you do, the publications that you've been in, do you have a website or a social media page that you would refer people to?
I used to have a website, but I realized my Instagram had a lot more visits than the website, so I just stopped updating it. My Instagram is I'm gonna spell it because I think if I say it in Portuguese, it's BB. It's my name with one extra B before. B Bruno Oliveira altogether.
Okay, so
two B's.
Bruno Oliveira. So that's BBRUNO Oliveira.
Yep.
Okay, so they can find out about you and the work that you do on your Instagram page. And again, they can easily find this project on Kickstarter.
Hey, everyone, I just wanted to say that if you found out about the campaign listening to the podcast, send me an email or a message saying that you discovered it via the podcast, and you will get, if you purchased a physical reward, meaning a reward that I'm going to have to ship you, you will get an exclusive print as a thank you for finding out about the campaign via the podcast.
That's great. I mean, what better incentive do you have now to back What Now Bruno? You know, just contact Bruno, let him know that you found out about this project through the Comics Alternative, and you get an exclusive print.
Cool.
Just to remind everyone again that this project, What Now Bruno, ends on the early afternoon of December 7th. So make sure that you check this out and back Bruno's project before then. Bruno?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for talking with me on the Comics Alternative Kickstarter series, and good luck with this project.
Thank you, Derek. It was my pleasure. It was fun.